The kitchen clock ticked too loudly that Wednesday morning, its rhythm drowned by a sharp crack that split the air. 10-year-old Lena froze, her cereal spoon halfway to her mouth, as her mother, Clara, crumpled to the linoleum, hands clutching her stomach. Blood bloomed through her dress, a vivid red betrayal. 3 shots, then silence, a silence so heavy it choked the room. Lena's legs wouldn't move. Her breath caught, trapped in her chest. A single bullet, missed by doctors, buried itself in Clara's body for decades, waiting to unravel a family's fragile peace. What secrets does pain hide? Lena was 10 when the world broke open in her kitchen on a muggy July morning in 1995. The small house on Willow Lane in Augusta, Georgia, smelled of bacon and coffee, the ceiling fan wobbling its usual nervous spin. Clara, 32, hummed an old Aretha Franklin tune, flipping pancakes, her apron stained with blueberry juice. Lena sat at the table, doodling on her math homework, the yellow daisy wallpaper peeling near the fridge. It was a Wednesday, ordinary until it wasn't. The night before, tension had simmered. Clara and her brother-in-law, Tommy, arguing over money, a loan unpaid, promises broken. Lena heard the shouting through her bedroom wall, but tuned it out, used the adults' voices rising and falling like summer storms. By morning, the air felt heavier, words sharper. Clara stood between Tommy and Lena's father, Michael, trying to calm them. "Let's just talk this out," she said, voice steady but tired. Lena watched her mother's hands, always moving, always soothing. Then Tommy's voice turned cold, a tone Lena hadn't heard before, like a switch flipped. "You don't get to play peacemaker this time, Clara." The gun appeared from nowhere, a .38 revolver from Tommy's jacket. Lena's breath stopped. The first shot cracked, sharp and wrong, like a board snapping. Clara staggered, hands flying to her stomach. The second shot hit the wall, splintering wood. The third, Lena saw her mother's body jerk, a gasp escaping her lips. Blood spread fast, soaking her dress, pooling on the floor. Lena's legs trembled, her hands gripping the table, crescent moons forming in her palms. Tommy's voice broke. "Oh, God, I didn't mean," but the words drowned the chaos. Michael shoved Tommy aside, dropping to Clara's side. "Stay with me, Clara," he shouted, pressing his hands over hers, blood seeping through his fingers. Lena couldn't move, her eyes locked on her mother's face, pale but awake, lips moving without sound. A neighbor, alerted by the shots, called 911. Sirens screamed closer, tearing through the quiet street. Paramedics burst in, their boots tracking dirt across the linoleum. Clara was lifted onto a stretcher, her hands slipping from Lena's grasp. At the hospital, Lena sat in a plastic chair, the fluorescent lights buzzing, her father pacing, muttering, "She's strong. She'll make it." Tommy was there too, silent, staring at the floor. The police took him for questioning, but Lena didn't hear what he said. She didn't want to. The surgeon, Dr. Ellison, emerged after hours that felt like days. "She's stable," he said, his voice clipped but kind. 2 bullets removed, one from her abdomen, one grazed her side. Some intestinal damage, but we repaired it. She's lucky. Lucky. The word felt wrong to Lena, like calling a storm a breeze. Clara stayed in the hospital for 10 days. Lena visited daily, bringing drawings, sitting quietly as nurses changed bandages. Clara smiled, weak but warm, squeezing Lena's hand. "I'm okay, baby girl," she'd whisper. Lena nodded, wanted to believe it. The police called it a family incident. Tommy faced charges of aggravated assault, not attempted murder. A plea deal, a year of probation, and he was back at family dinners, his present a shadow no one acknowledged. Clara never spoke his name again. Life resumed, or tried to. Clara returned to her library job, shelving books, helping kids with research projects. She moved slower, favoring her left side, wincing when she stood too fast. Lena noticed but didn't ask. Clara's mantra was, "I'm just tired," and Lena learned to accept it the way you accept rain in April. The kitchen was cleaned, the bullet hole in the wall patched, the blood stain scrubbed until the linoleum shone. But the house felt different. quieter, like it was holding its breath. Lena stopped inviting friends over. The silence was safer. Clara's smiles came less often, her laughter rarer. She'd pause sometimes, hand on her side, eyes distant. Lena saw it, but didn't push. In their family, pain was private, swallowed like bitter medicine. Years passed. Lena grew up, graduated high school, got a job at a grocery store. Clara kept working, kept cooking, kept humming, but the cracks were there. She'd flinch in her sleep, wake sweating, eyes scanning the dark. Lena heard her through the thin walls, heard the gasps, the murmurs. Once Lena asked, "Are you scared, Mom?" Clara's smile was thin. Not what happened, of what it left behind. Lena didn't understand them, but the words stuck, heavy as stones. Clara refused doctors after her follow-up visits. "They fixed me," she'd say, voice final. Lena wanted to argue, but didn't. Silence was their pact, their way of surviving. By Lena's 20th birthday, Clara's health was slipping. She was 45, but her body acted older. She'd stopped eating heavy foods, saying they sat wrong. Bathroom visits stretched longer, the door locked. Lena heard the sounds, retching soft groans, but pretended not to. Clara lost weight, her clothes hanging loose. Neighbors stopped asking about the incident, their casseroles replaced by polite nods. Lena saw her mother trace the scar on her abdomen in the mirror, her fingers lingering like she was reading a map. "It's ugly," Clara said once, almost to herself. Lena wanted to say it was proof she survived, but the words caught in her throat. Clara gave Lena a box that year, letters, photos, mementos from her recovery. One letter, addressed to Lena, read, "You're why I kept going. You were my light when I couldn't find any. I'm sorry I'm not always whole." Lena read it alone, tears falling, and tucked it away. She didn't know how to tell her mother she'd seen it. They didn't talk like that. Instead, Lena watched closer, noting Clara's crooked posture, her pauses mid-task, the way she pressed her hand to her side. Pain came in waves, some days mild, others stealing her breath. Clara called it just age, but Lena suspected more. She read about gunshot wounds online, scar tissue, nerve damage, chronic pain, but didn't push. Clara's silence was a wall, and Lena wasn't ready to climb it. Viewers, have you ever seen someone you love hide their pain? Did you ask, or did you let the silence grow? Share below. Clara's decline was slow, a quiet erosion. By 2010, she was 47, Lena 25. The house on Willow Lane felt like a museum of their past. Clara's herbs on the windowsill, the faded daisy wallpaper, the chair where she'd sit staring at the street. Lena had moved out for college, but returned often, unable to shake the pull of her mother's gravity. Clara had quit the library, claiming she needed a break. "Just until my energy's back," she said, but the naps grew longer, her steps slower. She'd sit by the window, stroking basil leaves, humming faintly. Lena noticed her mother's frame thinning, her skin paler, her eyes duller. Food became a battle. Clara couldn't keep much down, blaming sensitive digestion. Lena pushed for a doctor's visit. "They fixed me once," Clara snapped, her voice sharp with something like fear. No point going back. Lena backed off, guilt gnawing. She'd read about long-term effects of abdominal trauma, adhesion, infections, but Clara's refusal was a fortress. Lena worked longer shifts at the grocery store, saving for something, though she didn't know what. One evening, she found Clara on the kitchen floor, not collapsed, just lying there, staring at the ceiling fan. "Mom." Lena's heart raced. Clara blinked. "Just feeling the cold tile," she said, but her hands trembled as she sat up. Lena saw the wince, the hand on her side. She offered to call a doctor. Clara refused. "It's nothing," she said, but her eyes said otherwise. The nausea started in 2012, subtle at first, then relentless. Clara skipped meals, claiming she'd eaten earlier. Lena found untouched plates in the trash. Clara's weight dropped, her cheekbones sharp, her arms fragile. Lena begged, "Please, Mom, let's get you checked." Clara's voice hardened. "No hospitals. They don't see what's really there." Lena heard the distrust, rooted in that long-ago surgery, when doctors declared her fixed. Clara's fear wasn't of illness, but of being dismissed again. Lena didn't push, but the silence felt like betrayal. One morning in 2013, Clara collapsed in the hallway, a soft thud waking Lena. She found her mother crumpled, conscious but weak, unable to stand. "I'm fine," Clara whispered, but her eyes were glassy. Lena called 911, ignoring Clara's protests. At Augusta General, the hospital smelled of antiseptic and regret. Clara lay under thin blankets, IVs dripping, machines beeping. Lena held her hand, feeling the cold seep into her own fingers. Tests piled up, blood work, CT scans, a colonoscopy scheduled. The attending, Dr. Patel, was kind but direct. "There's a blockage in her intestines," he said. "Possibly scar tissue from the old injury. We need to explore further." The colonoscopy prep was brutal. Clara gagged on the liquid, her body too weak to handle it. Nurses switched her feeding tube, and Clara's silence grew heavier, her eyes distant. Lena stayed by her side, brushing her thinning hair, reading old novels aloud. The night before the procedure, Clara spoke softly. "Do you think this is what kills me?" Lena froze. "I don't know," she whispered. Clara's eyes held hers. "I do." The words landed like a stone in Lena's chest. The next morning, Clara was wheeled into surgery. Lena paced the hallway, the linoleum slick under her sneakers. Hours later, Dr. Patel emerged, his face pale, cap in hand. "We need to talk," he said. In a small room, the air thick with coffee and tension, he showed Lena a vial. Inside, a rusted metal shard, no bigger than a dime. "A bullet fragment," he said, "embedded in her intestinal wall. It caused chronic inflammation, infection, necrosis." Lena stared, her mind reeling. "That's impossible. They removed the bullets." Patel shook his head. "This one was missed. It's been there since the shooting." Lena's hands gripped the chair. All those years, Clara's pain, her fatigue, her tiredness, traced back to this tiny shard. "How?" she whispered. Patel sighed. "Scans weren't as precise back then. It was small, buried deep. They thought they got everything." Lena's throat burned. "Does she know?" "Not yet," Patel said. "I want to tell you first." Lena nodded, numb, and returned to Clara's room. Clara was awake, pale, tubes snaking from her arms. Lena sat, words heavy. "They found a bullet," she said. Clara blinked, then looked away. "I always wondered," she said after a long pause. Something felt wrong. Not just pain. Wrongness. Lena's voice broke. "Why didn't you say anything?" Clara shrugged. Who would have listened? The surgery removed a fragment and damaged tissue, but necrosis had spread. Clara stayed in the hospital, her recovery uncertain. Lena sat by her bed, replaying every wince, every pause, every "I'm fine." How had they missed it? How had she? Viewers, have you ever sensed something was wrong but didn't push? What stopped you? Tell us below. Clara came home in a wheelchair, her body too weak for stairs. Lena turned the guest room into a care unit, hospital bed, for stand, oxygen tank. The floral wallpaper mocked their new reality. Clara's digestive system struggled. Food was impossible. Doctors prescribed TPN, a feeding tube delivering nutrients through a central line in her chest. Lena learned to manage it, flushing lines, changing bags, watching for infection. She set alarms for 3 a.m., 7 a.m., 11 p.m., her sleep fractured by beeps and fear. Clara whispered, "Thank you," but her eyes held apology. Lena smiled, hiding her exhaustion. "You do it for me," she said. Caregiving consumed Lena. She quit her job, her world shrinking to Clara's needs. Friends faded. Social invites stopped. The house was a cocoon of routine, meds, vitals, wound care. Clara's body fought, but each day took more. She'd flinch at touch, her skin bruising easily. Lena bathed her carefully, talking about the weather to fill the silence. Clara's voice grew faint, her sentences shorter. She'd stare at the ceiling, lost in thoughts she didn't share. Lena read to her, and Tyler novels, newspaper clippings, anything to anchor them. Clara liked obituaries, saying their stories just finished. One evening, Clara asked for a box from her closet. Lena found it, letters, photos, cassette tapes. "Pieces of me," Clara said, "for when I'm gone." Lena's throat tightened. "You're not going anywhere." Clara's smile was sad. "We both know better." That night, Clara spoke again. "If it's time, let me go. No machine's keeping me here." Lena nodded, tears burning, unable to argue. She slept in a chair by Clara's bed, waking at every cough, every uneven breath. In 2014, a new diagnosis came: colon cancer, advanced metastatic. The bullet's damage had weakened her system, leaving it vulnerable. Chemo offered months, not years. Clara agreed, more for Lena than herself. Lena drove her to sessions, the clinic cold and sterile. Clara's hair fell out. Lena shaved it gently, their eyes meeting in the mirror. "I look sick," Clara said. "You look like you," Lena replied. The treatments drained Clara: nausea, bruises, fatigue. She dropped a glass once, crying from frustration. Lena knelt, cleaning the shards. "You're holding me," she whispered. Clara's eyes softened. "Always will." Hospice arrived in 2015. Clara stopped chemo, choosing comfort. Nurses taught Lena to swab her mother's mouth, apply morphine. Clara's voice faded, but her hands squeezed Lena's. 2 squeezes for "I love you." Lena played Ella Fitzgerald, watched Clara's lips twitch. One night, Clara's breathing slowed, uneven. Lena held her, whispering memories. Park picnics, bedtime stories, Clara's perfume. At 3:17 a.m., the breathing stopped. Lena sat, frozen, until nurses arrived, their movements gentle. She kissed Clara's forehead, tucked her blankets, and sobbed, the sound raw and unshackled. The funeral was small. Neighbors came, but Tommy didn't. Lena's eulogy was simple. She survived a bullet, a broken family, a body that betrayed her. She loved anyway. Afterward, Lena found another letter in Clara's box. "I knew the bullet was there. I didn't tell you because I wanted you to live, not worry. Forgive me. Live for you now." Lena wept, the pendant she'd made from the bullet warm against her chest. Viewers, what would you say to someone who carried pain for you? Share below. Clara's story began with a gunshot in the kitchen, a moment that shattered a family and buried a bullet no one saw. For nearly 30 years, that fragment silently destroyed her, a hidden traitor in her body. Lena, her daughter, became her caregiver, her witness, carrying the weight of love and loss through hospital rooms and quiet nights. Clara's death wasn't just an end. It was a revelation of how silence can kill as surely as a bullet. The pendant Lena wears, forged from that deadly shard, isn't pain but proof. Love endures, even through betrayal, even through goodbye. This story isn't just Clara's or Lena's, it's yours. What pain are you carrying silently? What truth have you buried to protect someone you love? Clara's bullet reminds us that survival isn't healing, and love doesn't erase scars. It holds them. Lena learned to live again, not by forgetting, but by shaping her grief into stories, into connection, into a pendant that says, "I'm still here." Share your story below. What weight do you carry? What would it mean to turn it into something new? Because sometimes the quietest wounds hold the loudest truths, and the smallest fragments can reshape a life.